Thank you, Joe. How many people know where that song's from? How many young people know where that song's from? Welcome. Unitarian Universalist Church, morning service, March 5th, Pledge Week.
I want to welcome you. My name is Garcia. We return again to make our beloved community here with compassion, reason, and respect, all the while promoting justice. And we also acknowledge that here the CSRA is the original home of the Shawnees and the Yuki people of the Skokie Confederacy. I was walking by the river yesterday, and I also noticed that this was the original home of the Cherokee people. My grandmother was a Cherokee. She was a real Cherokee. And it said that 400 years ago, DeSoto had come here to this river, this part of the river. He lost 300 of his guys, and the Cherokees, they lost everything. We're kicking off our pledge drive today. Thank you, Joe. A moment in our annual cycle in which we put our money where our mouth and our faith is and contribute real material swag to support the mission of our church. This is where we do our spiritual practice of generosity, which really is a part of our spiritual practice. All of us present today are covenantally co-creating this space, this many beloved community, alongside of Reverend Nic Filzen and our music director, Patchen, and 4 special guest speakers today from our congregation. And the folks in our tech deck are making us look good and sound our best as much as possible, considering the material that they have to work with. So if you're joining us via Zoom this morning, I'd like to invite folks to stay on the call for at least a few more minutes following the service so that you can say hi to each other and have some of your own fellowship time with us together. If you're visiting here in person, please fill out the blue card in the seat pocket near you. You can put it in the collection plate when it goes around, which it will during the offertory, and you can give it to me after the service. And that way, that information will help us to keep in touch with you if you would like that, to help you to be more connected with us, which we dearly hope you will. After the service, please stop by the common room for coffee and glycemic carbs and conversation. We will know you by your orange name tag and zoom in on you. All right? And whether you're here for the first time or the 1000th time in person or Zoom, we hope that you will get what you came here looking for this morning. Thank you. So here's what we have coming up. In addition to the pledge drive being kicked off today, Alan George, Marcy Durst, and Lynn Dennison, that's Lynn Dennison sitting next to Alan and Marcy over there, will be offering realm advice following the service today at the computer, which is just outside the sanctuary doors, that computer there. So drop by if you have any questions about how to use our primary communication and organizing tool here at the UCA. So as we prepare for spring, we have a campus cleanup coming up on March 18th, 9:30. Campus means that campus. And there's a sign-up sign in the common room by the small TV. Very important, in order to accommodate our Sunday morning choir rehearsals and fellowship setup. This is what you wanted to know. Beginning next week on March 12th, daylight savings time, spring forward, Sunday worship will begin at 11:15 a.m. Repeat that, beginning next Sunday at 11:15, not 11 o'clock. Doesn't mean you can't come here at 11 o'clock. You can still come in at 11 o'clock. You can come in at 10:30 if you want. Coffee's usually ready by about 10 to 11, I can tell you. And services will begin at 11:15. This also happens to be, So you'll only miss 45 minutes of sleep the previous night if you come in at 11:15. Think about that. Isn't that worth making a pledge? Don't you think, Simon? What else are you going to get there? So choir rehearsals will begin at 9:30 on Sunday mornings instead of 9:15. So choir gets another 15 minutes to sleep. It's not much, but I hope this little bit of respite will help folks be more comfortable coming in early on Sundays to sing together. Now, speaking of music, the final Friday of this month, March
31st.
31st, 30 days hasn't come yet. We'll have our jazz concert, Final Friday Jazz Concert. Tickets are $20. And if you're interested, you can go to the website, uuaugusta.org-jazz, or you can buy it at the door to register and purchase. Now, I also want to let you know there's an upcoming partnership with the Equality Clinic, right, which many of you know as the LGBTQ plus friendly health clinic in town, right? On March 24th from 6 until 8 o'clock, we're going to be hosting a resource fair here. And this will be put together by the clinic at the end of a series of events that they're holding to support the health and the welfare of our LGBTQ plus friends and neighbors. You're more than invited to attend and to learn about these resources for yourself or for people you know who might be benefited by these. You're definitely encouraged to let people who want to know more about it to attend also. There will also be an HIV testing bus parked in the parking lot during the event. So start thinking about how you can contribute to the UCA auction this year, which will take place on May 6th, an auction on May 6th. This includes how you could help us to prepare for that auction. Last year it was very successful. And if for some reason you're offered an item or a service for the auction last year and you haven't fulfilled that promise, I urge you to get that done to ensure that other people will have faith that we will come up with the goods at this event. Now, I want to welcome you, after all of that, to our service. Those of you who are visiting us for the first time, thank you. And we hope you find something here that's worth coming back to. Where's the bell?
Welcome, everyone. Today's child's Sunday reading is entitled Celebrating Abundance by Reverend Teresa Inez Soto. And it's a responsorial reading, so we're going to get those words up on the screen for you. And I'll read where it says my name, and you all read where it says people. Deal? All that we are, together and individually, is part of the abundance of the universe.
We are made of stars. We are made of earth.
All that we have comes from earth, from the labor of those in our communities.
From the cities, farms,
and oceans that enliven us.
the world and those who live in it.
We are surrounded by blessing, by grace, and by possibilities.
We are reflected in
Every other human being.
We respect and honor one another's differences.
We celebrate our
Being and the practice of generosity.
Come, let us worship together.
Let's rise in body or spirit for hymn number 318, usually B1.
We would be one, as now we try to sing. A hymn of love, to pledge ourselves to you. To that white cross of grace.
Hello, I'm Marika Bhattacharya, and this is the time in our service when we share the joys and sorrows.
Turn it on or hold it closer.
It's on, just close to your mouth.
Hello.
That's it. Yeah.
Got it, all right. So this is the time in our service when we share the joys and sorrows that are coming into our lives in the past week. This part of the service is not recorded. If you
So for today's meditation, I would like to share a short parable by Reverend Lynn Gardner called Sustaining the Tree of Life. So as we go through this story together, I'd like to invite you to sit comfortably. If you have experience with meditation, make your back nice and straight, your feet flat on the floor. And it's okay to take a minute to close your eyes, don't go to sleep, and try to feel the presence of the humanity around you. Some of you who believe the way I do, not necessarily believe that God is incarnational, that everything is imbued with the spirit of universal consciousness. Try to get a sense of that while we sit here together. Once I finish this reading, we're going to continue the meditation with a moment of silence and music. This is our story, Sustaining the Tree of Life. The tree stood in the middle of the village. Its trunk was so large that it took 6 people holding hands to reach around it. The roots were strong and wide, and its branches spread out over the village square, offering shelter from the rain or shade from the summer sun. And its fruit was juicy and sweet and plentiful. The people of the village, they loved this tree. The children played beneath it, they climbed its lowest branches. The young people knew that if you whispered your dreams to the tree, they were more likely to come true. People who proclaimed their love or friendship for one another beneath its branches found their relationships to be nourishing, and elders discovered that their sweetest memories could be counted on when they were near this great tree. The tree had been a witness to so many things, and when the breezes blew through its leaves, one could hear the echoes of generations, laughter, conversations, dreams, prayers, and songs. Animals loved this tree too. The rabbits lived in burrows beneath the roots, and the squirrels and the monkeys lived in the branches, and bats and birds flew in to eat the abundant fruit. The tree just seemed to buzz and hum with life. One day, a traveling merchant arrived in the village. He rested in the shade and he ate 2 pieces of delicious fruit. "This fruit is incredible," he said. "I would like to have some of this to sell." in the next villages that I visit, who owns this tree? Nobody owns this tree, said a villager. If anything, we belong to it. Well, then, if nobody owns a tree, then nobody's gonna mind if I pick all the fruit, said the merchant. He began to fill a basket. Well, I mind, said the villager, and today I am the keeper of this tree. What do you mean, keeper of the tree? Well, we each take our turn being here with the tree. We can never own it. We're here as protectors and sustainers, buddy. Well, that's ridiculous. This tree doesn't need you. You could just take what you need. Take what you want. This tree will continue to grow. The villager would not be persuaded. Sir, this tree isn't like that. We don't come here to take from it, even though we receive a lot from it. We are keepers of this tree because this is where we are nourished. You see where we're going with this? This is where some of our most precious memories are. This is where our people have dreamed of things together. This is where we remember who we want to become. Well, said the merchant, you may think that this tree is very special, but it still doesn't need you to sit with it. That is stupid. No, replied the villager, the tree itself may not need me, but what of the others who come by? Just this morning I sat with a woman whose heart was heavy with worry, and had I not been here, she would have had to carry that worry and weight all alone. And this afternoon a tired couple came by, and they rested with me. And they said that they had been looking for a place just like this. And then an old man came by. We watched the birds and the branches together. And now you're here, and you're confused about what this tree is and how to be with it. So imagine if you had arrived and not found anyone here to talk with. You might have continued thinking that all you have to do is all about you. Luckily for you, my friend, I am here to tell you that when you care for the tree of life, it becomes about so much more than just you. And the merchant sat for a while in the shade. He was thinking about these ideas that felt new and a little challenging. As the sun went down, he picked up his bag and he headed out of town, whistling a song that he hadn't thought of in years. And on his way, he shared a smile with each person he met, and his heart was feeling strangely light and joyful. And as for the people of the village, well, they continued to sustain this tree of life, to care for one another, to share their gifts with grace and gratitude. Thank you, Joe. Something to think about for all of us. So I had a little speech I was supposed to be giving at this point before the offering, and I lost it in my van, which is pretty normal for me. If you've ever looked inside my van, you'll know right away that my relationship with books and notebooks is not normal. All right? So, shucks. This is Pledge Week, okay? You all know that. This is Pledge Week. And this is the week that we need you to come up with the goods, all right? I mean, that's what this week is. You want to dance, you got to pay the band, all right? And look, we've never had so many kids here. You know why you bring your kids here? Because you want them to have a moral education. You don't want them to be filled up with a lot of religious baloney that excludes people, judges people, and makes people feel bad. You want them to learn how to love people as they are. Where else are you going to get that? I've seen people here who've had mental burdens. They're very scared and shy around people. You know who they are. A few people who just feel very uncomfortable around people, and I've seen them come out of their shells and blossom. And you know what? I'm one of them. I came to this church, I think, about 10 years ago, and I was just curious about it. And I heard Margaret Tuck say to Sandy Hochel, I didn't know their names on that day, but she said, "How was boarding?" And I thought she was kidding. And when I realized that these were people who went to boarding, I said, man, these are my people. These people are weird and mean. Not comfortable, weird. You need to take care of this place. You are not going to find another place like this. This is a refuge for people who've given up on religion, who've been turned off to religious baloney. We're not here to convert you to anything, but if you know what you're looking for, we're here to get behind you like a jet engine and push. And that's why this is good. And this is why you need to take care of it. And if you have kids, this is the way you want your kids to grow up, without hating anybody or cutting anybody out or judging people for who they are and what they believe. If you want your kids to be loving and inclusive, this is the place you want to bring them, and we need to take care of this place. And this is the week, not just this minute, this is the week that you do that. Will the ushers, if any, please come forward.
I've got 40,000 fresh rice in my fridge. I've got lots of milk in here, and now the Christmas getting dearer. And my dollar bills would buy the Brooklyn Bridge. There is nothing quite as wonderful as money. There is nothing quite as beautiful as cash. Some people say it's falling, but I've never heard of falling. With money you can make a splash. There is nothing quite as wonderful as money. There is nothing like it when you get to ground. Everyone must hanker for the butchers, so the baker is accountants and the kids who run around. It's money, just a thing. It's money, money, money makes the world burn,
For your money, we thank you.
That was one of the more serious songs we've ever had as an oratory. As I begin my portion of today's kind of multi-part sermon, I'd like to share that before the pledge drive has even technically started, as of Friday morning, we already had 28 pledges for a little over $102,000. Which is also slightly over half of the way toward our pledge goal. Our lofty but doable pledge goal of $197,000. Thank you to everyone who has already made that promise, And thank you to everyone who has helped to drive this campaign, especially Ruth Garrison and Linda Essenbold. Thank you both. So in the interest of being vulnerable, I don't know about you, but money is not the easiest thing to talk about, especially when I'm asking for the stuff. Knowing that churches are often seen as money hungry instead of mission driven, or money is the mission as part of some warped prosperity gospel, for folks like Pastor Joel Osteen. Knowing that, it feels icky to ask for money. It feels like I am being selfish when I ask you for money. It feels like I'm perhaps using people. It feels like I'm being greedy. Especially because I have certain feelings about how capitalism is so pervasive in our lives. It feels like I'm perpetuating a system that I critique fairly often. And yet, capitalism does indeed have its fingers in everything we do here in the United States. We have to use money to buy and or support the things we need and desire. We have to use money to pay people appropriately so they can buy and or support the things they need and desire. Capitalism has been at the center of all the stories of the United States, all the way back to when these lands were first colonized by European folks. The money, the greed at the heart of capitalism has driven nearly all the terrible things in our country's history. Entrepreneurial capitalism and slavery, for example, emerged at the very same time in a back room in New Orleans, existing as two sides of the same dominant coin, so to speak, from the very beginning. And the existence of capitalism and money is also responsible for a fair amount of good things. It's complicated, right? Though money and its value is merely a construct, its existence in many ways still makes real, physically real, a sense of generosity and reciprocity between people. Sure, those two significant values could exist without money, and nonetheless, they are often physically symbolized by the exchange of money for goods, services, and indeed, higher purposes. Especially when you're talking about supporting a cause you believe in, supporting work you believe in, supporting a community you believe in and that believes in you, supporting lofty missions and visions in which you have faith. It's worth it for me to ask money today because I believe in this community. I have faith in the possibility and value of our mission. It's worth it to get over my discomfort. I hear a lot about how generosity is a spiritual practice, and I believe that to be the case, as Chris mentioned earlier. Especially generosity of our material treasure. It's a very real way of showing your love for something, for someone, for someone's. Especially when that generosity then helps to support additional generosity. When what you give continues to have an impact. I believe that we have an impact here. An impact for good. An impact that doesn't merely just give us a space, a lovely space to get together and be social. I do believe that to be an important impact, and yet we are striving. We are striving to do more. And to be perfectly and, yes, uncomfortably honest with you, we need more to do that. Now, the pledge drive technically begins this afternoon, shortly after the service. Like I said, we've already had some very, very generous pledges come in. And you're going to hear about why several folks are pledging and increasing their pledge here in just a moment. And I urge you from the bottom of my heart to hear their reasoning, to listen from the bottom of your heart, the fullness of your heart, to find some kind of inspiration from the stories of inspired generosity you're about to hear that might encourage you to give a little more than last year, or at least match your pledge from last year to prevent our increasing impact from stalling. If you can't, that's fine. We understand that people's lives are their lives, and each of us have to weigh all the things. And I think what we're doing here is worth the investment. I care deeply about this church, the people in it, the mission we share together. Janaea and I subsequently have increased our pledge significantly this year because we care so deeply about it. And I really hope that we can meet our pledge goals so we together can continue the fantastic work that we're doing here to keep the bubbling creative energy alive, which I feel at every event we hold. Maybe even give it some more juice. I hope we can support our staff members and pay them appropriately for the excellent work they've done, that they do, and will do. I hope we can increase the formative programs we offer to transform our individual hearts so that we might transform the world. I think it's important to name, though, that there have been some tremendously generous people here over the years. Folks who have really held this community up with their finances, in addition to all the other ways in which they've been phenomenal stewards. Folks with more financial privilege, understandably, give more. This is equitable and just, and for them to make that choice is a faithful act. And we can't rely on a few extra fortunate folks who also happen to be generous forever. They won't be here forever. It's wise for us to have more individual donors. Okay for us to ask each individual donor to offer their faithful, fair share of support. Now, of course, any amount given to the church, to the mission of the church, is generous. Please hear me say that. Any amount that you give is generous, even if it's just $1 a year, a penny a year. You know your finances. You know what you can afford. And I wonder if you can find it in your heart and in your careful discernment to give just a little bit more than you think you can, as an act of tremendous generosity, as a spiritual practice. I hope that what we do with our money really truly does become a spiritual practice. No matter how we choose to spend it, whether it's here or other causes, or simply ensuring you have a roof over your head and food on your table. I hope, more often than not, that I will have the capacity to continue considering, how does this impact the world beyond me? How does this move me, us, all of us, toward beloved community? How does this money, my money, act as a tool of abundant justice, as opposed to a tool of limiting oppression? As you ponder these questions, let's hear some of your community members answer them, starting with LinhThi.
Hi all, I'm LinhThi, and I became a member in 2018. Well, maybe actually 2019. There was a baby in there somewhere. I want to talk a little bit about where I live, and I see you all showing up in our community for fun things like soul circles, and hard things like meetings, but even harder things like gun control, reproductive justice, racial justice, and is working on these different necessary causes that I get, because the world feels really overwhelming right now to me, and there's a lot of work, and as much as I participate, I know I'm limited by the number of hours in the day, my understanding, my life practicalities, 2 kids, life, work, all those things, and I get to support our community, the joy we bring, the hard things we share, the work that each of us do here and elsewhere. So when it comes to giving, like how much you pledge, before I face my pledge. It feels really abstract. And spoiler, I don't really use the fair share worksheet. I'm like, oh, these numbers are really abstract. But your church is my like spiritual cheers, and when I come here, I come to fill my cup, so to speak. So reflecting on how I want to give. To me, I was like, is it a cup of coffee? Is it like a Netflix subscription or going for dinner? And for my pledge, it's first spiritual and physical spaces that we really share together. And I really love so much of this is a place where we share together and disagree and still come together to build our community and make an impact. And so I'm here to share and ask you to please consider pledging and possibly increasing your pledge. And I'm really grateful that we're here together creating a beloved community. Thank you.
My name is Katie Davis. I've been a member of this church for 20 years. And as I told Reverend Dan when I first met him, if this church didn't exist, I'd have to invent it. This church is really essential to this community. Nothing makes Augusta feel like home more than this church does. So I hope you will consider supporting it to the extent you are able, and to be generous, if as generous as you reasonably can. I've raised my pledge many times over the years, and I hope you will consider that as well within your abilities. I think most of my favorite people are in this church. So let's keep creating beloved community over and over again. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Matthew Moser. I've been coming to you for a little bit, almost coming up on a year, right? I'm one of the newer members, and I am absolutely going to increase my pledge this year, and I'm going to explain why. The only reason why I can increase my pledge is because of, as Chris kind of mentioned, right, and as Katie did, thank you, this is a home. This is a refuge for me, specifically, personally, right? I only have the mental well-being to be able to afford pledging more because I've been able to come here. I've been in Augusta for going on 13 years now. I got here in February 2010. I'm active duty U.S. Navy. I serve out at Fort Gordon, right? And I have been, without realizing it, I've been searching for a community that entire time, which it's hard. It's hard. Fort Gordon is geographically distant for most of downtown, right? It's a long drive, and as some people can probably attest to, and Tammy can probably attest to, right? Military culture. It's you're sort of encouraged to go and drink away your weekends, right? To kind of de-stress, and that's not healthy, nor is it sustainable, right? So I've been searching for other communities, the entire time, something that was healthier, and hadn't really found it up until about a year ago. So I'm a father to a beautiful boy named Jonah. He's in the daycare right now, right? And I realized that I needed to do something more than just sitting around the house all day and playing video games or having a drink. So coming here and being welcomed, right? But also knowing that it is a place where everyone is welcome was really important to me, honestly. And the things that our pledges pay for, such as for instance, Malayla and the daycare, I could not come out and be social and recharge my battery from being at work all week, right? Without a place like this, without somewhere where I can come. And Jonah is in good hands, and I know he's in good hands, and I can come and focus and be a person and not just a parent, right? So again, I'm absolutely going to increase my pledges this year, and I'd like to thank all of you wonderful people once again for making this a place where I can come and making this a refuge for me. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Natalia Bowdoin, and despite my orange name tag, I have been a member here since 2007 at this church. About once or twice a year, I lose my name tag in my car, so it must be related to Chris's car. So I have to ask for a new one. But I joined the church in 2007 when I moved to Augusta from Texas, and some of you have heard this story before, but I was born and raised at UU in Atlanta, the congregation of Atlanta. But I consider this a chosen faith because I left the church in my 20s, my early 20s, and I left for about 18 years. And I identified solely as a Buddhist, and I studied and practiced Buddhism and belonged to Buddhist communities, and did not consider myself UU during those 18 years. But when I moved to Augusta, I decided to rejoin the faith of the Unitarian Universalist Association, and that was for two reasons primarily. The first one was that I realized that it was because I had been born and raised UU that I had been given the freedom and the critical awareness to explore other traditions, and it gave me the grounding to do that, and to accept that I did that. And it also gave me an ethical ground that has stayed with me for my whole life. So that was the first reason I wanted to return to the UU Church. And the second reason was that I missed the community. And I had community with my Buddhist Sanghas. I'm still a member of 2 Buddhist Sanghas, but there's a different aspect to this community. And I'll explain what I view as beloved community and why I came back. So for me, beloved community really consists of 3 kind of parts. And the first part is that we support each other in hard times and good times, but we are there to have each other's backs, as Reverend Nic said a few weeks ago, whether it's an operation or an illness or any kind of situation like that, loss of a job, loss of a spouse, ending of a marriage. We're there for each other. And even in good times when we still need someone, like when we have a newborn, we need support and help. So that support and caring for each other is a key part of what I consider beloved community. And I know, looking out there at Pat and Dee and others who supported me through illness, I have benefited from that over the years, and I've tried to give back to others who are needing help in our community. And then the second part is what I mentioned about that spiritual grounding, supporting each other and supporting each other's explorations and questioning, and supporting each other's views, even when we may differ in their theological perspective. That is crucial to me, and that is something that honestly I don't have in my other spiritual communities. And then the third aspect of what I consider beloved community is that reaching out, supporting the community beyond our doors, whether it's making coalitions and supporting other organizations who are working to end gun violence, or to support reproductive care, support our LGBTQ plus communities. All of those things, whether it's environmental issues, there's a lot of need in our communities, and we are trying to build coalitions to do that. So those are all 3 of the aspects to me that make beloved community, and they're the reasons I came back to the UU faith in 2007, and it's why I pledge for this church. And I'll be honest and vulnerable too, I haven't been able to keep my pledge every year. You know, sometimes life happens and things change and you can't keep it. And I'm grateful that the church didn't kick me out on those years when I couldn't keep my pledge. And every year we have a chance to reevaluate and look at our finances and look at what the church means to us and recommit and make our aspiration, knowing that life does change sometimes when we move forward. So I hope that you will consider pledging and increasing your pledge. I love the energy that we have now with Reverend Nic and Desiree and all the different programs we have going on now, with whether it's soul circles or ecstatic dance or our jazz and the coalitions we've made. But I also know that we could do a lot more, and that a lot more requires funds. And just one last note, getting back to my childhood, growing up UU in Atlanta, we did stuff every week. We did outings, we did sleep-ins, we went to the mountain, we went to Susie, the summer institute that happens every year. We did all these amazing, amazing things, and I would love it if our kids could experience that as well. So if you haven't pledged before, I hope you'll consider pledging, and if you have pledged before, I hope you'll consider raising your pledge so we can co-create that beloved community together. Thank you.
Thank you to each of you who prepared remarks and boldly shared them with everyone here. Echoing Natalia, we want you here regardless of the amount of financial resources that you offer us. That we are not asking you to contribute so that you can be a member, though there is an expectation that you do give something. There is no amount specific that we need from you. And you know, we do still need resources. It's a pretty complicated thing, and for a complex thing for us to hold kind of simultaneously. I'm excited for all the things that we're doing right now, that we're going to do, and of course I'm nervous that we'll have the resources to do them. Do you have the resources to do this work? I think we can be stewards of this congregation in many different, unique ways. Whatever way that really meets your skills, your interests, there are still ways to be stewards regardless of the amount of money you give. And right now, today, being totally vulnerable here, we need money to survive. And more than that, we need generosity, so together we can truly thrive. Blessed be.
Please rise and body your spirit. Please rise.
Button is at the bottom.
Please rise and body your spirit. Prayer number 1028, fire of commitment. Please change the word hunger into the word treasure.
Into faith set free from fear. When the fire of forgiveness sets our minds and soul ablaze. When our treasure and our passion each to call us on the way. When we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within. When our promise lies fulfillment, and our future can be good. From the stories of our living brings a song of brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to a life of liberty. When the fire of forgiveness sets our mind and soul ablaze. When our treasure and our passion needs to call us on our way. When we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within. When our promise lies fulfillment, and our future can be good. From the dreams of youthful vision. for justice will find our gracious voice. When the fire of the witness sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our treasure and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live in deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Please stay risen in body or spirit. As I read these closing words, adapted from Prayer for Canvas Sunday by Reverend Victoria Weinstein. We have been given the divine spark as shapers of love, all whose health and wholeness requires us to tend to the life of the soul. In our rushing and our doing, may we not forget whose we are and what we truly are. Not human beings having a spiritual experience, but spiritual beings having a human experience. And so, we lift up grateful hearts. We ponder this mystery together, glad for one another, blessed by the abundance of our lives and called to give abundantly of ourselves to it. May our abundant love radiate throughout the world. Amen.